Senate Democrats once again prioritize their pro-abortion agenda over combating the Zika virus. After returning from a 7-week recess, Senate Democrats proceeded to again block a $1.1 billion funding plan to fight Zika because the plan did not allocate money to Planned Parenthood. This is the second time Democrats have blocked the bill. The first time was in late June. They argue Planned Parenthood can provide birth control so those infected with the disease don't get pregnant and run the risk of the child developing the rare birth defect, microcephaly. And if that doesn't work, Planned Parenthood can always just abort the child. Take a look.
The virus is causing deaths, birth defects, and lost pregnancies throughout the U.S., leaving many wondering why Congress failed to advance a bill providing $1.1 billion to fighting the spread of it.
Look, give me a break on this thing. We passed the $1.1 billion bill for Zika, which was the level agreed to in the Senate. We did the responsible thing. We did it before the July 4th recess. I think that they're just being wholly partisan with these endless filibusters. This is obviously an issue we're going to have to resolve this month. But just so you know, the House did its job, and the Senate has been blatantly political with Zika funding.
Joining me now is family physician Dr. Jonathan Vitale. Doctor, thanks for being here.
Hey, Liz, thanks for having me on.
It's always great to see you. All right, this $1.1 billion in funding to fight Zika, is that amount of money needed?
Well, Liz, I'm a doctor, and it's really hard to put a price on human life. But there are so many diseases that could benefit from that amount of money. But what I will say about Zika is that it is so prevalent right now, and it's spreading, and it has so much shock value that there's so much attention to it. And the good news is we can help prevent it, but we just got to act fast.
Right, and speaking of putting a price on human life, a very good use of words there, this Planned Parenthood provision, the reason that Senate Democrats wouldn't support this funding bill, that seems to me, I think Speaker of the House Paul Ryan is correct, that seems to be a wholly partisan move on their part that's playing with people's lives.
Absolutely. But again, this is the Congress playing politics with medicine, right? This isn't a Democrat or Republican issue. It's a medical issue. And there is certainly time and a place for this debate about Planned Parenthood. But right now, I think what we should be doing, rather than focusing on the abortion aspect of that, is let's focus on prevention, so that we don't have to have that conversation. And we can keep doing that so long as we get the funds to help to treat Zika. And I really do support that.
Right, and on that note of prevention, Dr. Frieden, he's the head of the CDC. He recently said that all of the allocated money to fight Zika, it's $222 million, I believe, that was all used up. And he pointed specifically to places that would suffer from that lack of funding if he didn't get more funding. He said in Puerto Rico, they wouldn't be able to continue their mosquito control plan if this bill did not pass. But Senate Democrats, like I said, they're just standing firm on the Planned Parenthood part.
They are standing pretty firm on that. What's really important to note here is that the United States, the continental United States, of course, we've been dealing with Zika, but Puerto Rico has just been inundated with Zika. They have almost 16,000 cases. They have over 1,000 pregnant women with Zika there. So this is a very important issue for Puerto Rico. However, the Planned Parenthood stipulation, I think it's more politics. Actually, Mitch McConnell was heard today talking behind closed doors, saying that Republicans are ready to kind of forgo that issue for the sake of getting this bill passed and just getting the money available so that we can start fighting Zika, we can start preventing it, we can start working on controlling these mosquitoes, and that we can start working on research and vaccines.
Right, and I gotta disagree with you just a little bit on that. I don't think there's any excuse to give funding to Planned Parenthood since they take other people's lives. It's essentially trading one person's life potentially for another, and I can't get on board with that. I support the Senate Republicans holding strong on that.
Sure.
But Dr. Vitale, let me ask you about something. I want to touch on this before we run out of time. We spoke about it last week just a little bit. We were talking about the EpiPen controversy, the price hike there, and we were talking about the generic alternatives and how the FDA is somewhat responsible for not approving these generic alternatives. Well, there's a news story out about the FDA that says that they're now allowing companies themselves, private companies, to determine what are generally believed to be safe, and that's like an official term right there, generally believed to be safe food additives to their products. I don't understand this, so maybe you can explain it to me a little bit further. So companies are now allowed to add whatever they want to food?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make much sense, does it, Liz? I mean, there's something called generally regarded as safe, GRAS, and this was back in 1958 when the FDA said that was okay. What's happened now is they've essentially formalized that. So the FDA doesn't know what it doesn't know. This is essentially a don't ask, don't tell policy when it comes to food additives. A company can say, you know what, I think that this certain ingredient is safe, and I'm just going to say it's safe and put it in the food, and the FDA says that's all right. You can tell us if you want to, but you don't have to. And I agree with you. It does not make much sense at all, and it just shows the incompetence of the FDA.
Right, and back in 1958 when this bill was passed, from my research, it seems to me that they were talking more about things like olive oil and vinegar, not chemicals that you would find in tennis rackets. I mean, some of these chemicals that are in our foods, whether they're additives for flavor, for color, for preservatives, how can we know that they're safe if these companies aren't even supposed to tell the FDA? Do we even know what we're eating?
The short answer is no, we don't. And yes, it started with olive oil and sugar and things that everybody thought was safe. And now that list has expanded to thousands of things, many chemicals. And the other thing is we don't know the amount that they're putting in the food. So this is a big issue, Liz, and it does not make much sense at all.
No, it doesn't. We should definitely keep following this story, I believe, because it's a fine line between giving the federal government too much control over over private industry here, but also protecting the consumer from who knows what is in our the things we eat every day. Dr. Vitale, thank you so much for being here. It was great to talk to you as always. Our next tipping point with General Tata is classified information and Hillary Clinton. We'll be right back for that.